It's been a fascinating journey over the years, one that I did not anticipate. I had an opportunity to go to Kenya and help conduct a pastor's conference in 1988. And I spent a week with them teaching them some basic Bible study techniques and then giving them an NIV study Bible and teaching them how to use it. But I walked away from there with a sense of having accomplished something with these particular men in a short period of time, but I also had a burden because not a single one of these men had been to Bible college and seminary and graduated. I was given an opportunity to investigate as to whether or not there were some training programs available for these kind of pastors around the world, because I realized this was a scene that was repeated many, many times in different parts of the world, certainly especially Africa. And we never found a program exactly like what we were looking for. And so 6 hours a day, 6 days a week for 16 months, I wrote and developed the first draft of those materials, returned to Kenya, field tested one of the courses, and in the process of that, I met Bill Bissett. The rest is history, sort of. Bill, a missionary kid on the field all of his life, and became a teacher. And Bill has been our longest standing and arguably most faithful and effective teacher. So Bill, tell us about the start of your teaching experience with BTCP, which has been continuous since 1990.
It has been. It's been my privilege and joy to teach the program over and over again. So I remember when we were about to start the first day of the first class, I think Dennis and I were two of the most nervous people on the planet to start this new program.
There's no doubt about that.
And it was just a challenge even to figure out, which pages you cover and how many each day when you just start out a brand new program for the first time. There's some challenges the first year because as a teacher, you like to know what further materials coming afterwards. Well, that was not possible that first year. I even remember with the Manual 5, it was still being printed. So Dennis had to fax me about the first 20 pages so we could get started with that manual. They all came through, and from that first year we had 20 students. Most of them were Ugandan refugees. The pastors were mostly from the slums, and because they commuted every day, they just went back to their homes and churches and continued ministry there. And so I have contact with probably 4 or 5 of that group of men in the first class. I still send them texts every Sunday to encourage and challenge them. And we were just talking about one man from Uganda named Martin Odi. He was actually not a refugee, but came down from Uganda to the first class and then returned there. Well, he began using the expository method of preaching, and his church doubled in size quickly, and they decided to split it. But when the other people were sent away to the second church and he continued his expository preaching, he couldn't keep them away, and they just kept coming back. And since that time, I've heard that Martin was involved in ministry in Rwanda, and I think now in Ethiopia, starting BTCP, BTCO classes. So I've taught in Nairobi for 7 years, I was in Uganda for 11 years, and now in Malindi for 7 years. So it's been a joy and privilege. I feel like I've had the greatest opportunity of any human being on the planet to have actually taught this curriculum all these years.
What has astounded me about the need, in addition to the initial encounter I had in Mombasa in 1988, is the fact that apparently there are somewhere between 2 and 3 million untrained pastors in the world. We expect that most professionals have training of some sort and usually a certificate or degree. That's just not true of most pastors around the world. It's certainly those in rural areas. So BTCP has become a vehicle that can be used effectively almost anywhere in the world to train pastors. And they will raise up teachers from their classes as they go along, and then they will reproduce themselves. We don't grant degrees. We're not a formal educational institution in that sense, which has actually been to our advantage because it keeps us from being under the authority of educational ministries in different countries around the world. Most of our classes, in fact, meet in churches, and we have many lay leadership programs using 5 or 6 or sometimes all of the BTCP courses as a lay leadership training program. And we've seen it used extensively around the world with a multitude of applications. Effectiveness, is a direct result of basically we do everything that we can in the manuals and in the classes to use and emphasize the Word of God, and its efficacy is unbelievable. And a steady diet of that Word of God is what's causing the indigenous churches to grow all over the world.